Hey everybody, welcome to the Guys Learning Japanese podcast. What's up, Nick?
Not much. What's up with you?
Not too much. So for today's topic, I'd like to talk about multitasking. A lot of people, they multitask and they just feel that they can do more while multitasking. But there's also some research that suggests multitasking is not a good thing. So how about in your experience learning Japanese? Do you multitask? Do you think it's good? How do you multitask?
I gotta say, I mean, research be damned. I'm a big multitasker. I do a lot of multitasking every day. I do, probably 70% of my tasks in a kind of multitasked way. So when I exercise, I listen to audiobooks. I've listened to dozens of audiobooks while I've been exercising. And so I've got, I think that's a good thing. And then I normally, for instance, with Japanese, when I'm washing dishes or cooking, I actually cook fairly slow. So it might take me 40 minutes to make a meal. So that's 40 minutes of Japanese, of constant Japanese, whether it be anime or a movie in the background or something. Of course, I'm not watching it. I'm not watching the movie or watching the anime. I'm just listening to the audio, but it's normally enough. I actually like listening to it that way. And then, yeah, really almost anything. If I go for a walk, normally I'm always setting up my my headphones before I go out for a walk, and I personally think multitasking is a good thing. What do you think?
Well, I try not to multitask. I'm a big unitasker, monotasker, whichever it is. So with Japanese, honestly, I don't think I've ever really tried multitasking. Like I've seen different things. Like I know, like I had a friend before. He thought it was a pretty awesome idea. Like this was a guy living in Japan, and how the toilet area and the place where you wash, like the shower room, they're kind of separate in Japan, as most people probably know. Um, but in the toilet room, he had a kanji poster on the door. So I guess while he was taking a dump or something, he studied kanji. So I've never really done anything like that.
I've done
Uh,
that.
oh yeah, you have a kanji poster on your toilet door?
I don't anymore, but
No.
it's only because it wasn't successful, and because my previous girlfriend told me to take it down.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? You know.
Yeah, it is a bit weird when you think about it. But yeah, I legitimately thought I could study kanji that way. It turns out I couldn't study kanji that way, which was, reason enough to take it down. But yeah, it is going a bit far, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if like I don't know how long does it take to have a dump? 10 minutes or something at the most. Like if you have some kind of gut problems, but most people it's a few minutes. But if the only time you have to study kanji during the day is when you're taking a dump, I think you've got other problems to worry about. You know?
But surely that's not your only reason for being I'll call you a uni tasker. The
Well,
hey, like is there? Have you noticed a difference when you're only focusing on one thing? Have you noticed a difference in your concentration or anything?
well, I might I don't know if this would be considered unitasking or monotasking, but when uh, when I study using Anki, I often listen to kind of like classical music, like the piano collection of Final Fantasy games. Kind of. I know that's pretty geeky, but the like I wouldn't be able to listen to anything like rap, like Ludacris or some kind of R&B or something, because that would distract me. I would get really into it and maybe just start paying more attention to the music. But when it's classical music or some kind of piano collection, it tends to increase my concentration. I stay focused longer. So,
Yeah,
what
well,
do you
you know
think? Would
me,
that
I'm
be
a
considered
in a way,
multitasking?
yeah, yeah. In a way, I guess it is. You know, for me, I'm a massive fan of ambient music, and so I love listening to ambient music while I'm studying. It's one of my biggest. I sit in this like just bubble of ambient haze while I'm studying. It's like I enter this world. It's beautiful, and I particularly love ambient music that sounds like it's in a different world, and it sounds really sort of foreign and everything. So I actually sort of enter this world, and I've been to Mars, I swear, several times. But
Wow.
anyway, as yeah, so I you might consider that what you were saying, multitasking. Certainly, I think you're talking about something which is interesting, which is obviously, you know, studying Anki takes a certain amount of your concentration. And for me too, I have the same thing. Normally, if I'm studying Anki, unless it's something like ambient music, or in your case, Final Fantasy, I'm sorry, Final Fantasy piano songs, then you know, I can't study. If it's the same thing if I'm listening to Japanese or something like that. If I'm trying to listen to a Japanese movie, especially if it's a movie I haven't seen, if I'm trying to do that and study Anki, I mean, it's laughable. My attempt to study would be laughable. I just can't
Right.
do it. But then there are, it's all about the amount, to me anyway, it's all about, I think someone studying Japanese, I think, you know, that you should sort of experiment, you know, whoever's listening should sort of experiment with the idea of this, of, you know, of trying to study and do something else at the same time, and see where the thresholds are. I normally find that if I'm cooking, I can pretty much listen to Japanese pretty clearly without any problems. I don't leave the stove on. I'm not burning dinner. I'm not doing anything like that. But then, you know, if you've got a case like I said with the aforementioned Anki, or if I'm, you know, studying kanji or something like that, it just uses up too much of my brain, and so I just can't do it.
You end up
Um,
boiling the spatula.
well, yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I end up just not being able to study. You know, they both just suffer.
Yeah.
Uh, And so it's all for me. I'm totally fine with multitasking. I just think it's all about me knowing my limits. I love listening to Japanese while I'm driving, and I don't think it impedes my driving in any way.
Not
And
cutting
then
anyone off, not running any
no,
red lights.
no, and it's not making me aggressive on the road when I've got all the anime characters screaming at each other or anything.
Hmm.
And so you were making fun of me earlier today about me listening to Japanese while reading a book. And I gotta say, it is pretty absurd that I sometimes do that. Reading a book does take up a lot of
Yes,
concentration.
I think you should say that again just so our three listeners will definitely catch what you've said. Just say that
Yeah.
again. What do you do? Why did I make fun of you today?
Well, I was saying that I just borrowed a book from the library at school today, and I was planning on taking it home and reading it while listening to Japanese in the background. It's a Japanese book, I should add. It's a Japanese book made for Japanese people, and I'd be reading it and I'd be studying Japanese or listening to Japanese dramas or whatever in the background.
There you have
Yeah.
it, folks. Send your comments.
Yeah, yeah, that's commitment though, commitment.
Yeah.
But it probably won't work to tell you the truth. Yeah, I normally find there's a lot of you know, I can't remember the correct pronunciation. Is it caveats? Caveats. There's like a lot of exceptions to the rules, and there's a lot of things to always be considered. For me personally, if I'm re-watching a drama, or rather re-listening to a drama, listening to a movie or whatever while I'm doing something else, normally it's fine because I know what's happening, I know what's going to happen, I know what's just happened previously, blah 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 blah. If it's something that's new that I've never watched before, I think the kind of idea of passive listening, or the idea of multitasking, of listening while doing something else, I don't really think it works. For me personally, it pretty much has to be something I've already listened to before. And the same applies for new music. Unless I used to, back when I lived in Australia, I used to be really into jogging, and I'd jog around the local lake. And while I was jogging around the lake, I used to listen to new music. I think because the two things, jogging and listening to music, are fairly, disparate. And normally when you're jogging, it's fairly brain dead work.
It
And
certainly
so,
is.
yeah, and so normally you can fill your mind with a new album and it's fine, and you can actually attentively listen to it, and then but yeah, there's not many other things that you can do while listening to. As for someone like me who's really into music, I normally when I listen to a new album, I benefit best by just sitting there, usually like in near darkness, probably with a coffee in front of me, steaming, that I can just sip at while I'm sitting in my chair, like rocking back and forth, listening to a new album.
You've
That's
created
it.
quite the picture.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's
Would you
that's
be
that's
wearing
really.
clothes?
I'd be in.
It depends on the season.
No, most of the time, I'm not super comfortable in being naked, even around myself, and so yeah, definitely I'd be wearing clothes. I'd be probably wearing like tracksuit pants, which what are they in Canada again? Like sweat pants,
Yeah, sure, whatever.
and then I'd be wearing like I'd be wearing some kind of comfortable shirt. Yeah, that's the way I do it, and then
That's pretty awesome. Anyway,
yeah, sorry.
no, it's okay. Uh, so actually, while you were just going on about that, I was
Yeah,
thinking about
thanks. Yeah.
something else, and
Mm.
I realized that yes, I have multitasked a little bit in the past, and two ways that I've multitasked is I used to ride my bike everywhere, like all transportation was by my bike, just about. And when I was riding my bike, I used to listen to a few Japanese podcasts while riding my bike. And understanding the content to 100% was not necessarily my goal. I was just listening to the content to enjoy the content. I never re listened to it, it was just enjoying the content. That's it. And also, like when I was working in my garden or, like, doing some kind of work outside, I sometimes listen to other podcasts too. And another thing, I don't know if you could call this multitasking, but when riding the train, the subway, like I might be like playing around with my smartphone, or like playing around with a book or a magazine if I have something like that. But sometimes I'm just listening to the conversations that other people are having around me. I'm just eavesdropping.
Mm.
Yeah. I think of it kind of like studying. Just imagine, I imagine that I'm a spy and I'm trying to pick up on key information, and I make it look like I'm really studying something or I'm really looking at a magazine, but I'm actually listening to some junior high school kids' conversation about, you know, diarrhea or something.
Yeah, and for some reason the spy needs to know that kid's diarrhea story, does he?
Yeah, yeah, it's key. It's really key. Stuff like that.
And so, getting back to the topic of multitasking,
Hmm.
have you? I think I'm not can't remember if you answered it or not, but have you found there to be a benefit to just sitting there when you're studying Anki without any music going at all, without anything going, or if you're watching if you're reading a book, for example, or reading a magazine, blogs, whatever it might be, to do that in near enough to silence. Have you found there to be a benefit to your comprehension and ability to memorize or remember what you read?
If I'm doing Anki or something like that, yes. The main reason I do that though, it's for noise cancellation. Like if I hear I don't know, if I hear a dog bark outside, I'm gonna wonder why the dog's barking. Or if I hear just a car screeching its tires as it passed my house for some reason, it's gonna distract me from my studies. So I tend to use the music to cancel the noise in my area, even though it's not a very noisy area. But I think if you're in kind of a quiet area and then suddenly there's noise, it's going to distract you.
Yeah,
So I use
gotcha.
it just to try and keep me focused on the studying by canceling the distractions.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, I tend to agree with you when I'm as I said, when I'm studying Anki. But as I said though, most of the other things that I do, I could just I'm just more than happy. I'm more than happy to be squeezing in a little bit more Japanese, especially since uh, listening to me is just I'm not saying it isn't for you, but listening is really something that I want to improve a lot and that I think is really super important. And so at the moment, I'm just happy just to try and get in as much Japanese listening as I possibly can. Yeah, if I could record everyone I speak to at school and then listen back to them, listen to what they said to me over and over and over, if that wasn't super creepy, I would probably want to do that just because
You should really do that.
yeah,
That's a great idea.
I really, you know, I haven't seriously considered it because there's logistical reasons, how you're going to record them, what if they find out, and those sorts of things. But I especially think that with things like tour guides, because tour guides they talk really polite Japanese and they often talk in just like you would expect an English tour guide to speak, where they often speak in passive sentences, where they say things like the house was built in such and such a such and such. It was said that there's very rarely subjects to sentences,
Hmm.
and so everything becomes this sort of passive haze. And as I'm listening, it's like I don't know my weird obsession with subjects, that might come from English or something. I'm pining for this, to hear something that I can grab onto. It's all this passive, and then this was said to have happened at this time, and it was said to have been this way, blah 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 blah, and then so I often tune out and I get bored, and
Hmm.
so I would love to actually record those conversations or that tour guide speaking and then listen over and over and over because it's normally I sort of think I'd love to be able to understand that Japanese uh, more easily, but it's normally I normally find it quite hard to listen to.
You should get
And
like a mini recorder or something. I think if
yeah,
you do that with your iPod Touch, they may catch you.
I actually have a mini recorder.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, I have one back before iPods were a big thing, or iPhones, or whatever it might be. And yeah, back in the days of MP3 players and all that sort of stuff, I got a really easy to use, recorder. I got it just before I went to university, I think, which I don't think I ever used it in university. But in any case, yeah, I could definitely do that. I wonder what would happen. But anyway,
You
I
should put
that's
it in your pants and then have a cable running up your shirt and then coming out your arm towards the palm of your hand, and you could tape it.
yeah. I don't really understand what you said, but it sounds once again like you're getting back into that spy mentality.
Yeah, yeah, it's all
Yeah,
about information, right?
yeah. But in any case, yeah, I'm a big believer in multitasking, and it's probably a drug I'm not going to get off too soon because I think it's working for the time being.
Chase 2 rabbits, get one. I just messed it up. It's supposed to be chase 2 rabbits, get no rabbits.
Oh, really? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what the research says, right? I actually tend to agree, except I think if you're trying to do two tasks which are similar, then you end up failing at both. Uh, but I think if the tasks are different enough, like I don't think anyone's going to be saying that you can't jog around a lake like I had been and be listening to music at the same time, that they're both going to suffer, and they might suffer, sure, but that the amount they suffer might be so negligible that it doesn't matter. I only think it matters when something requires a lot of attention, or when the things themselves are very, very similar. Like
I think if
it's
you're
gonna.
listening to something like AC/DC, like you could probably improve your results for
You might
running.
actually, yeah, yeah. I certainly know that. I certainly think that when I'm listening to really kind of pick me up songs, I swear I can run better. I never run, but I swear I can jog better.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and I get all pumped, and when the bit in the song comes along, I just sprint, and my sprint is like a kind of a very slow run, and so like it varies. I'm reluctant to call it a run, but it is, I
It's like
guess.
an old man crossing the crosswalk when the green light or the crosswalk signal starts to flash.
Yeah, yeah, and he only gets like halfway across before it's already starts flicking. Yeah, yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I can't remember my point, but oh yeah, that's right. But I think if you're trying to write and cut something out at the same time, like you've got cards that you want to cut out or something, obviously that you can't do that because both of those tasks require a lot of attention,
Mm-hmm.
and they both require your hands, and they're both kind of similar, that they require fine motor skills. And so I think it all depends on the similarity of the skills and how much attention each one requires. But I think that's something that each learner should really do a lot of experimentation in, because I think you can get benefit out of it if you, rather than making any kind of clear cut rules, no multitasking. If you make if yeah, and we're all multitasking all the time anyway, because whether or not you know it, you're breathing, blinking, blah 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 blah. So you're a multitasker.
Yes, my cells are also dividing and my mitochondria is working.
That's right. That's right. And your
I'm
your heart.
digesting. Leave me alone.
Exactly. Exactly. And your heart pumping all that blood around and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So case closed. I win. Okay. Do you want to wrap it up there?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let us know in the comments. Are you a multitasker or not? All right, thanks for listening, everyone. Bye, Nick.
Bye.
Okay, thanks for listening to the Guys Learning Japanese podcast. Send your questions to gljpodcasts@gmail.com. We'll answer your questions on the show.